Okay. Oh, MOOCs. M-O, like moo with
Massive
C.
online.
Zero.
Massive online open courses. So here's where you could start if you were really kind of interested in them. If you go into canvas.net, these are courses that are available and open. There's another place called Coursera, course, and then RA. Same thing, you just log in and then there's just a whole bunch of courses. edX is another one, and
Udemy. U-D-E-M-Y.
And there are these massive online courses, and a lot of them, I think, and Laura, you tell me if you agree, what makes them attractive is that they're the more prestigious university professors that teach them, and so it always, you're kind of curious. And I've taken a few from, I think it was a computer course from MIT. But it was basically a talking head. It was a video. I would log in every day and just watch a video. It was 45 minutes. And it was the professor had been videotaped, and so I watched it mostly because it was the dynamics of this one person in front of 300 students at MIT, and just kind of the dynamics. And so you were just a passive observer. There was homework assignments, but you didn't turn them into anyone. It was just learning. And so one of the questions that I've always had, kind of what you were talking about with flipping your classroom, is how do you know that you're doing stuff correctly? Well, in flipping your classroom, you can come in and get reinforcement or not. But what if you're way off and just really not understanding the concept? So that's kind of what massive online open courses are. But the idea is to open learning to everybody. There's more to it, but I don't.
Well, and the one that Laura and I are taking right now, it's a 4-week course, but there's so far no video lecture. I haven't seen any on it. So it's done in a way, it's not linear, it's not sequential learning, although there's week 1, there's week 2. The professor has sequenced it, but you can go through it at your own pace. There's all these links to jump off and read more about particular things. And then there's discussion topics. But they mentioned that to put this 4-week class together was 640 hours of several people's time, which I thought, oh my God. I mean, this makes more sense to me now that I've been playing around, with soft chalk and doing all these things online. The number of hours it takes to put something like that together is tremendous. But then, you have it, and then you just have to update it. So, I like it because it's only 4 weeks long. I don't want to commit a whole semester to learn something at a time. It will give me, and I can get the amount of information I want about what a MOOC is, enough so that I know whether it might be applicable here or someplace else, that could be useful to me for college or something like that. But I don't have to take the whole thing in, So, I don't know, I'm just excited because I think it's one of those things that can really, raise the level of education globally, especially in countries that, you may have internet access, but you may not have good access to great education. So,
Do you have to pay for it? So what is the incentive for the individuals that work 640 hours?
well, they're doing it for their university or out of the goodness of their heart or both. But part of the motivation, I think, for the institutions is, here we'll give you a little bit of a taste of our great professors, and if you like what you see, maybe you'll come and and try to get into our college or our university. The other thing is some of them are looking at generating revenue by opening a class up that is like for a certification, but only charging the people who want the certification at the end of the class when they want to print out the certification. So, so there's some business revenue generating ideas going along with some of these moves. But some of it is just, they are believers in open education.
Yeah, there was, I subscribed to Money Magazine, and the issue I just got has an article on the MOOCs and how some are free, some do charge, like you were saying. It just depends which one. Like the MITs, they don't give a degree. You can't get a degree. You might get on some like a cert that you took a class. And some of the other institutions, there's nothing that you can prove that you took a class or whatever. So it was very interesting.
It's very interesting. So my daughter's been watching a lot of YouTube videos, and she really, she has several. She watches everything they put up. She's just waiting for the next episode. And she's talking about, she's really into makeup, and she wants to create makeup tutorials. And then she's like, this summer I want to go to a YouTube conference. I'm like, what? Wow. They actually have these little groups that are coming together now, people who do YouTube videos, and they come together and they share ideas and stuff. So I'm like, well, you should do that then. And she's graduating from high school this year, so she's like, I want to live life, like, well, go live life, and then come to college this fall. But for me, it's really very alien. I mean, I do watch them. She's always yelling, watch this one, Mom. I'm like, oh, very good, yeah, all right. And sometimes it's just really goofy, stupid stuff. But it's a whole culture being developed there. It's very interesting.
It's amazing how much good stuff is actually there.
So that's kind of their theory, and again, I've read the theory. I wish I could listen to someone talk about it, because that's the way I learn by reading and then connecting, but that's the whole idea. Everything you're describing right now is that we're connected in ways that we weren't before, and that's really shaping how we learn and how we seek out information. Thank God for YouTube. Anything that I need, I just YouTube it, and oh, there you go. There's the information. So, I don't know, it's rather interesting. I don't know, there is one community college that I read about that is trying this, and there's in Florida, there was some K-12, some high schools that also opened up a course like that. There is, of course, the whole thing about how do you know that they know? How do you know that anyone going through this stuff has learned anything? And I posted that in our discussion board, is I'm impressed by the 10,000 students, but how do you know what they were doing in there, and if they learned anything? And I think only less than 500 actually completed. So they post these huge numbers, but what's the reality of it? Okay, I don't know if we have time for one more.
If we stick to 9 minutes, go for 9 minutes.
Or we could just debrief, kind of. Yeah, because I don't know what else was in here. So what do you all think about this way of doing them? I know what, I can tell you what they are, and if you, the ones that were left over, because now I realize some of them were. There was eText that was left over, bring your own mobile device, and assessment. So,
Any votes?
or you can just talk about any of those if there was something of interest that.
Well, I was going to make a comment and follow up on your comment about eTextbooks. I mean, I don't see, I think printed is just going to go away a lot faster than we think it's going to go away.
It's from a library.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
I thought you were going to say the opposite, Lauren.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, I read everything on my Kindle now, and
On my phone.
yeah.
I have a couple hundred books on my phone. I lay in bed at night reading my phone.
I know my son would be happy if he could get every textbook that way.
Yeah.
And he's a, biology and major, chemistry minor, but he would still, that's just his way. And if he could get all of his books that way, he'd be just the happiest camper ever.
Well, and I'm wondering, there was some e-textbook thing today at the same time
Right.
that this was going on.
Over inside, yeah.
And I'm just wondering if the textbooks will be like our Kindle accounts where the book actually resides on the cloud someplace, so that no matter what device you're using, it seems like that's gotta be the way it would go.
I don't know for sure about that, but I think so. I think that's right. If it isn't now, it will be, I'm sure in the near future. I think that there's a lot of things happening right now in this regard. Of course, I'm sure many of you know Texas A&M, San Antonio, their entire, all the textbooks the students buy, they buy their eTextbooks. That's just the way, that's their model. And of course, Western Governors has a similar model. And the positives are, of course, as Laura mentioned earlier, money. The cost is incredibly less expensive. It's if you negotiate with the vendor, usually a single textbook company, you can negotiate it incredibly low, and $150 a semester for as many books as the student needs for the e-textbook format.
$150 per.
Yes, and so now there's negatives. One is you don't own the rights to it; you own it for that semester.
It's like a rental then.
Yeah, so you don't, you will lose that if you don't come back the next semester, and so forth. So there are some negatives, but for the students themselves, it's a really good price. And then on the faculty side, and there's more and more information coming out about this, but they have a lot more analytics that they're able to do, so that you as a professor are able to see how many times student A, B, C, D has actually opened up the book, read the pages. You can see the number of pages that they've read, what they've looked at, what they haven't looked at. Also, the textbook companies have been incentivized so that whenever there's testing that happens and students aren't getting concepts, textbook companies are incentivized by many of these colleges that are making deals with them to rewrite sections so as to improve, so that the textbook quality will be improving because certain sections will be better at teaching certain concepts than others, and they're able to identify them because of the structure. So there's many positive advantages to it.
Connectivity instantly.
There's many positive advantages.
When I was majoring, when I finally got into, of course, I didn't keep any of my gen ed books, right? I was an undergrad, that's terrible. But I kept all of my books from my major. And so I imagine that there's probably then going to be some sort of offer to purchase the rights to keep the book like you would when you purchase it and download it to your Kindle, or just keep it on the cloud. And I suspect that that's going to be a very different price than that other thing. So there's a part of me that I'm really comfortable with the media and technology. I guess I'm I'm a little hesitant there, only in that I don't want students to get in the end not have access to this material that they would like to reference in the future. And so that would be the only question I would say is how do then students get to make it where they own, it's like you own the book.
Yeah, but
right?
I suspect our younger students, and I'm thinking of my own son, I just know how he thinks and learns, probably couldn't care less about owning a single book, because he knows he can go out there and find information whenever he wants to.
That's true.
He just knows it, and he does not want that stack of books.
Because he doesn't have to have a stack of books, it's still in electronic form, right? So you don't think that when he
But
gets
it's
to
not
be
the
a
only way you
senior-
can find that information. There are so many ways to find that information, and I think they just know that. They just know that they can find it. That it's not the only place that they've got to go.
Okay.
So I don't
see
think they
that.
have that fear like we do. you know, where we like, we're
Sporting
sporting.
our
I wonder, because I felt the same way, but yeah, I don't think they have that feeling.
But I
And
also
then-
think that we have to keep in mind that our department did a study of the students, asking them, where did you get your textbook, how did you get it, would you like an e-text, would you like overwhelmingly, they said, I want a hardback.
Did they really?
But you have to look at the, once again, we're talking about, I have a young
Yeah.
daughter, coming out of high school, she would say electronic.
Yeah.
But I have
But your
30-year-old,
older
40-year-old,
students.
50-year-olds are saying, oh, I need the book.
Exactly.
So, I can.
But you're not denying those people.
No, as long as they have
No.
some kind of access to
Yeah.
where they can
Yeah.
purchase it, I have no
And
problem.
you can find them.
The Texas A&M model about this, by the way, is if you get the eTextbook and you say, I've got to have a paper copy, you can go and pay, I think, $15 or $20, and they'll actually print out a kind of a Kinko copy for you.
The college will do that
Yikes.
Yeah,
for $20.
yeah.
And I think that's
Because
the
you already
the
purchased
vendor.
the rights, right?
$20 worth of paper.
I think the publisher does that, because that's the way the math
You've already
option was.
purchased, yeah, you've already kind of purchased access to it, so if you need that. Now, I just, you know, I'm like, I'd be real mad if all of a sudden Amazon came back and said, yeah, you know, those $10 you paid for your book, really just kidding, expired, you know, and then it disappeared off of the cloud.
Right,
As-
right.
As a consumer, I'm sitting back
Yeah.
going, hey.
One of the
I'd
things
be
that's happening is the
upset.
textbook companies themselves are having to figure out what the rules of the game are. So that's still happening.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, the technology is so new, it's not dominating the marketplace yet, but they're realizing the paradigm's changing. So they're kind of defining the rules now, and I suspect it will change. I think eventually, perhaps they'll be at the end of would you like to purchase the book? And they'll figure out, oh, we can make money this way too, and that'll be the way.
Yeah,
that
if they find out they
go
can make
after it.
money another way, they'll go.
Yeah.
They'll go for it. They'll-
Economics.
Well, you know, and I think it's just an opportunity for a consumer to have that additional product available. A student, I'm sure they see them as consumers as well, but.
Well, another, back to the, you know, students that want to keep their textbooks. I kept my textbooks, well, okay, my graduate textbooks. But in my field, in library science, first of all, I never did go back to look at them. But they were just in my closet, right? Well, later on, when I went back to, you know, I may have tried to find something there, I realized that things had changed so much. I couldn't go back and look at those textbooks because they would have been wrong. They weren't up to date. And in the science fields, for sure, you
Well,
know,
yeah.
you can't.
But the only book I really care about is, I have a really old copy of A Hole's Anatomy. The anatomy didn't change. And it's just cool to have that old book. But otherwise, yeah.
Punctuation, those things haven't really changed a whole lot. So there's some things that, you know, but I get your point. I get your point, and I do understand what you're saying.
We also were talking about the availability of it, where it's going to be put so students can have access to it. Because, you know, I have some like, well, I was trying to get on campus last night and I couldn't get on. I had troubles, you know. It's like making sure there's always that access to it.
And someone's brought up, they said, well, you know, there's this great technical divide, but the thing is, the devices are getting so inexpensive now that we can just say to students, when you come in the very first year, use your financial aid, which most of them are getting, you just go buy you one, you can get one.
Plus, I think you can get, what is it, like, they call it paperwhite, single paperwhite reader, some other reader. There's an app that you can download to your, there's so many different e-readers that you can download just to your laptop or your tablet or something like, again,
So students aren't going to be blocked by technology. That's not going to be a problem because the prices of these things are dropping so much. So I prefer paper, but of course I think I'll be 50 next year, so I think I know why. But
Well, this old dinosaur all by himself. I'm afraid. That's okay.
But I think students are going to have to be taught how to
Yeah.
read material, because we read for fun on the Kindle. That's totally different than reading for academic purposes.
Yeah.
And I don't think high school kids are getting that digital literacy instruction. And they just think, oh, well, you know,
it's on my Kindle through osmosis, it's
It's
fine.
gonna come right
That's not the case.
Right.
They do that with a book.
They do. Put the book under their pillow too. If something happens. Yeah, they're not more likely to open one versus the other.